when you're in prison, you say, okay, when we get out, these we're going to deal with them.
We want full and unfettered democracy. Down with the racist constitution, down with the dirty elections.
It must be realized, however, that a state of peace and security can only be achieved by our determination, all of us, to be bound by the explicit requirements of peace contained in the Lancaster House Agreement, which express the general desire of the people of Zimbabwe.
The revulsion, I think, started through the stories that our parents used to narrate to us, how the white man came to the country, how he grabbed the land, and in a society where you have a class whose main purpose and accepted privilege is to exploit others, you naturally get revulsed if the majority of people are being oppressed, being exploited. You can't avoid, if you have any moral principles at all, the call to do something about it. Pambeleni sana. Pambeleni Central Committee. The High Command. The General Staff. Pambeleni Momo ya Zimbabwe. Pambeleni Ondo. Pambeleni Chimre. There was the whole history of our having tried non-violent methods. They had failed completely, and neither the settler regime nor Britain heeded our cries. They just wouldn't move. They wouldn't yield an inch. And so we decided, without any qualms about it, that armed struggle would be the right thing. In politics, you have to have an inbuilt system of shock absorbers. And I just don't care what they say, as long as I know I'm right. So they can say anything in their papers, damage me in every way possible, as long as the people I lead are behind me and approve of what we are doing. That's what matters. The rest of the world will one day, you see, be persuaded to believe we were right when we resorted to armed struggle.
Mr. Mugabe's election manifesto was greeted widely as a remarkably moderate document for one who many see as a man dedicated to a Marxist transformation of this country. But there are two passages in it which have led to fears on the part of the whites here. First, on industry and the economy. The manifesto says, a socialist transformation process will be brought underway in many sectors of the economy. And then on land, the manifesto says, a ZANU government will acquire as much land from the private sector as is necessary for the resettlement of the peasants who are currently on poor land or are without land. Well, earlier this evening, after his broadcast to the nation as Rhodesia's Prime Minister-designate, I spoke to Mr. Mugabe and I asked whether we should now take it that this country will now lean more towards the Soviet Union and China than towards the West.
We are going to pursue a policy of non-alignment, but that does not deny us the right to be associated with members of either bloc on the basis of mutual understanding. We would want to see ourselves a member of the non-aligned movement and participate in the deliberations of that organization. We also would want to see ourselves become a member of the Commonwealth as well as a member of the United Nations. But in relation to the two blocs, we are going to be absolutely neutral. We'll make friends, of course, with members of either side.
We have examined the proposals, and we note in the proposals that there is an acceptance by Britain, for example, of the principle of independence as a non-negotiable right of the people of Zimbabwe, that the British, in agreement with us, are for democratic elections.
Is there anything in the proposals which is wholly unacceptable, which would impede your participation in the transition period which would lead to independence?
The transitional period is, the power structure of the transitional period is completely ridiculous. We cannot allow ourselves to be outmaneuvered during the transitional period.
Does that mean that unless there is substantial change, you will not take part in the process that might lead towards those elections?
That's quite true. Unless the British revise this power structure of the transitional period, we cannot see ourselves participating in any elections at all. The crucial issue here is whether Britain will, alongside us, lead the country to independence, or whether she alone would like to do so. And our reading of the proposals is that Britain, in fact, would like to exclude us from the process of leading the country to independence. This, of course, we cannot accept.
Who is being talked about these days in South Africa? We host a statue, they host him in Zimbabwe.
We in Zimbabwe did not know about roads until South Africa said they had someone called Rhodes in Cape Town. So we are looking after the corpse. You have the statue of him. I don't know what you think we should do. Dig him up. Perhaps his spirit might rise again, and we produce tobacco. We don't smoke much of it. The Chinese smoke most of it. I say to you, journalists, thank you for paying so much attention, those of you who write for those papers we read, for paying so much attention to us and to President Mugabe, and for the publicity you have given me.
May I say, some of us were embarrassed, if not frightened, but what appeared to be the return of the biblical giant called Goliath. Are we having a return of Goliath to our midst, who threatens the extinction of other countries? And may I say to the United States President, Mr. Trump, please blow your trumpet. Blow your trumpet in a musical way towards the values of unity, peace, cooperation, togetherness, dialogue, which we have always stood for and which are well written in our very sacred document, the Charter of the United Nations. Upon those values, each nation can build its greatness, including the United States. And it's the greatness in recognizing those values: unity, peace, cooperation, dialogue, togetherness, that we would want to be guided by the United States and not by the promise of our damnation. Damnation we shall always resist no matter whence it comes. We have resisted it when it was in the form of imperialism, as we fought for our own independence, our own culture, our own sovereignty to be masters of our own destiny. That's why we call ourselves free today. It is because the monster of imperialism was defeated by us. Bring us another monster, by whatever name, he will suffer the same consequences.